And welcome to the If They Can Do It podcast, the podcast that interviews absolutely ordinary people who do extraordinary things and wants you walking away thinking, hey, if they can do it, so can I. And this episode, y'all, I can probably count on one hand, the amount of people who I've met who, when you see them do their thing, you're like, they are doing what they are created to do. Like every fiber in their body was created to do that. It is so effortless. It is just so in the zone. And y'all know I'm a Christian. It is so in God's grace and God's anointing for what they were created to do. It's just a smoothness in it. This person I have on this week is the epitome of that. He is a songwriter, storyteller. I mean, working on being an author. That's about to happen. I mean, if he has a story, he's going to find out how to tell it. That's the bottom line. That's just how he's going to do his thing. And so I could not wait when we put this on the calendar to talk to him more. It is the one, the only Mr. Joe James. What's up, dude?
Man, Isaac, dude, if that's not an introduction, I don't know what is, dude. I feel like I got to have you come on tour with me and just like introduce the whole time. That would get everybody hyped
Let's
up.
go.
Man,
let's go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words, man. I love it, man. I love your spirit, and I'm just happy to be on here with you.
Dude, I really am. I meant every single word of it. I mean, it is.
Thank you, man.
It takes a lot to not just be good at something, and not just be talented and recognize that you have a talent, but just to operate the way that you do. When you see somebody do something that is so effortless, tell me, because I've seen it so rarely, and I haven't had the opportunity to ask somebody this. Is it as effortless as it seems?
I would say yes and no. And the no part would be, I think, when when you step into your calling and the purpose that God has for you, um, it's not easy. There's a lot of things that shape you and kind of mold you and transform you into that thing that he's calling you to be or where he wants you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in my life, the no part is it did not come easy because I think when I step on the stage or when I write, it's from a place of, um, I've been through a lot in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I sing from that place and
Mm-hmm.
I tell stories from that place, whether they were difficult times or good times. But I've seen a lot of valleys in my life, so I write from there. But also, like, I've been through these things, but God has sustained me through them. But that does not eliminate the fact that they were difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I sing from that place, I think. And when I'm singing, I'm writing. It's from a place of remembering where I came from and remembering how God pulled me out of it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but now, yes, it's like it is when I sing, I tap into that place and I sing from this place of humility and remembering what God brought me through?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you are writing, because have you been a Christian your
Mhm.
whole life? Have you had that perspective like your whole life?
Well, uh, that's an interesting question because I grew up in the church. My dad's he's been a pastor all my life, so I
Okay.
grew up in the church. But I knew of God. I
Okay.
knew of God, but I never fully submitted to Him until 5 years ago. And I walked away from the church for a number of years because of church hurt and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to that story eventually. But I found my way back. So I grew up with it, and I grew up with the morals. And you know how it says, train up a child in the way they should go,
Yeah.
and when he's older, they won't depart from it. Well, thankfully, I did not depart from those words that were instilled in me years and years ago from when I was a child. But I didn't fully submit and pick up any type of cross until 5 years ago.
Yeah. Dude, that's crazy. And I also like I think being a storyteller, even with a story like that, like when you grow up in the church and your parents are
Yeah,
pastors and stuff, I almost feel like being a storyteller is harder because you know what you're like supposed to say. Like you know what the lyrics are like
yeah,
supposed to sound like and the words that you're
right.
supposed to use. And
Yeah, yeah,
so
right.
like it's so easy to do that. How do you approach I mean, does that bother you when like, yeah, that's the only, grace is the next word. Holy is going
Right,
to be the refrain. When like
right.
I don't know, how do you tell a story that is uniquely you without like playing into like the role that you know is supposed to be played?
Yeah, sure. I mean that I feel like when I'm writing again, I just write from what from my testimony of what God's done for me. So I think a lot of times when you in the CCM realm, like there's certain, you know, trigger words or key words that
Yeah.
you have to say, almost. I just say what is on my heart and what I know God has done for me. Kind of like, I mean, when you think of David and King David in Psalms, like um, he wasn't thinking about elaborate words to say or words that he has heard from whatever, and
Yeah.
he added some of those here and there, but he was just speaking, from a place of humility and reverence when he was talking to God, and also the fear of God, and like he was just being real. And I think that's the thing for me is when I write these songs, I'm just coming from a real place of what I've seen God do in my life.
Yeah.
So whatever the words tend to be, I let kind of the words fall where they may. And sometimes, you will find, these words that you hear in churches or that you hear in worship. Um, but for the most part, like I just try to be as real and authentic as I can possibly be when I'm writing these songs. Like when I talk to God in prayer, I don't have it, rehearsed, and I don't say it in such a way where, I want my words to be elegant and elaborate and so that he'll hear me.
Yeah.
It just comes from a place kind of like the tax collector and the Pharisee, the parable that Jesus told, that two went up to the temple to pray, and one of them was very elaborate with the words. The other was like, "Hey man, like I'm a sinner and I suck," and and then he said, one of these, like he basically said that whoever exalts themselves will be exalted, but whoever humbles himself will be no, whoever exalts himself will be humbled, whoever humbles himself will be exalted. And so it's just coming from the tax collector came with a humble heart, knowing who he was and who he needed.
Yeah.
And so that I think I just approach it in that way. I'm not trying to have like these elegant words. I'm just trying to make real music for real people and music that pleases God, because
Hmm.
I'm living the Revelations 12:11 where I'm telling my testimony and hoping that my testimony speaks to others, and then that they see that and they turn to God,
Yeah. Yeah. I see that as like, it's so funny because it's simple. It's simple to say, but we make it so complex that like you look at the woman at the well and you look at how many testimonies happen, all throughout the New Testament after meeting Jesus. And the first thing that he says is like, okay, now go and tell,
Yeah,
tell somebody like, just go and tell. And really that's all you're talking about. Is
yeah,
like something happens in your life, and when you sit and write, that is your go and tell.
right, yeah,
Like going and tell
exactly.
and tell people. And I think there is something about that where we talk about going through something and like God, you get the glory, and that being Christianese, you get the credit, all that for
Yeah,
those
yeah,
who are listening. But like that makes sense because then if in all these stories there's the same theme of God being faithful to this person who was a tax collector, to this lady who was on the by the well, like all this kind of stuff, then there's all these little stories that God can be faithful in all these different people's lives.
Right. Yeah.
And I almost think probably the worst thing that can happen is for us to think that we all need to be the same, is to think that like
Right.
we all need to be writing after victory. Like, why not write something while you're in the middle when like doubt is the most real thing,
Yeah,
to
that's a
you?
great point, man, because I think there needs to be more songs written from that place because I mean from what I've seen and from the people I've talked to, even the people that are up leading worship on a Sunday morning that are happy, the majority of them and the majority of us live 90% of our lives in the valley,
Mhm.
and mountaintops are few and far between if we're being realistic, And so, but the valley we could find rest there. And
Mhm.
that's the thing that we could find rest and peace in the valley because he walks with us through the
Mhm.
valleys. And so I think if we sang from that type of place and posture, you'd have the opportunity to reach people that are like, oh, I understand that. I get that. I understand that hardship, and it's crazy that you're able to have joy in the middle of that hardship. And I'm like, well, me myself, I don't have joy without Jesus. He's the joy that meets me in that hardship. And
Mhm.
that's the reason I have the joy. But I think I do wish sometimes that we would have more songs that were like just extremely raw and authentic. And it's good to have the ones that we celebrate and we have a good time. It gets everyone pumped up, but there also needs to be a reality aspect of it as well. Because, when Jesus calls us to deny ourselves and pick up our cross, a death instrument daily and follow after him,
Mhm.
that's not easy.
Mhm.
And it's not easy to live in a world that's fallen and to deny yourself in that world that's fallen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I write from that place, and I have songs, of course, that I think I write songs that are seasonal. In the Bible it says that there's a season for everything,
Mhm.
and so there's a season to mourn, and there's a season to laugh. So it's like right from that place, like right from the fun times. If you have a song that's leans a little more towards the mourning, and grief, then write that, and
Mhm.
put that out there because people need to hear that too.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people that need to hear that. You're actually a real person, and you don't just walk around like everything's fine all the time,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
Yep, I have.
Yeah, so
I've
like,
read it twice, yeah.
dude, like in the early chapters of that, it talks about exactly what you just mentioned. Like the peaks and the victories are actually what's rare, which is why
Yeah.
like you can probably name, yeah, then I got the yes for the job on here, or yeah, then this, like all that happened. Most of the time is actually spent like
In the valleys.
in the no, like in the grind, in the working, and to not
Yeah.
write about it. I mean, there's like so much more material there that
Yeah,
is more
exactly.
relevant. I mean, just if you're thinking just practically, all your material is there,
Right.
but then
Yeah.
also everybody what they can grab onto and the stuff that you have that can actually hook and help people is actually in that too, because that's true of them.
Yeah.
I
That's good.
can't
Yeah.
I can't tell you at work, like I always have to remind people, nobody sends out an email saying like, congratulations, you didn't get it, but we just wanted to recognize all the work it took to get that no. Like the three
Yeah.
years of preparation it took to get that no. Like it's
Uh,
coming. It's coming. Just like blah blah. You don't get that email. You just get the email. Congratulations for so and so who got the promotion to blah 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 blah.
right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And life
That's
is
so
kind of
good.
funny that way and damaging that way if it
Sure.
isn't framed correctly.
That's so good. It's true, man. I mean, it's so true.
And in music, man, in music, I feel like I feel like that's almost magnified in there because I know how hard it is. I've had so many friends in the industry and so many people that, dude, it's a grind. It's late nights. It shows
Yeah.
at like whatever time, doing that. What's been a lot of your story in like the music industry and just kind of Where are you at now? Because I guess I don't even know that. I'm just excited because a friend has an album that he cares about a lot, and I'm like, let's
Yeah,
go. Like I'm gonna listen
yeah,
to it. This
man.
stuff's good. But like, well, what's the story behind that?
Well, I now I'm at a very good place. I mean, I would say I'm successful. I pay my bills. I've bought a house. I sustain my family with music. Um, but yeah, it's taken a long time to get to that point. I fell in love with music years ago. My dad is a pastor, but he's also a bass player.
Yeah.
And so we had music in the house, almost 24/7. He's a huge Beatles fan, so that's where my love for the Beatles come from. Fell in love with it, started playing bass at the age of 8, drums at the age of 10, guitar at 13, started playing drums for the church at age 12, and didn't stop for years until I went to Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California, where I took Institute of Technology. And I was just going to go there to be a session guy. Um, and someone heard my voice, and because I took this guitar and vocal accompaniment class, and someone was like, "Oh wait, you can actually sing," and I'm like, "No, I can't. I'm just a guitar player." And they're like, "No, you need to like sing too," and I'm like, "No, dude, I'm a guitar player, dude." And so it kind of all started there. And then I went into doing session work and writing and at a place called Milestone Studios, also Sunset Studios as well on Sunset Boulevard in California. And I just jumped headfirst into that scene. Started writing and recording for a lot of people, and then I got burnt out, moved to Texas to get away from music, and then music found me again. And one of my friends told some people in Austin, "Oh, there's this guy named Joe James. He's in Temple, which we were living in Temple then. You need to get him back, like get him into the scene." So I ended up jumping into a band, toured all around Texas, played with a couple of other Texas country artists, and then started my own thing about 10-ish years ago, um, or maybe less. And yeah, started writing for myself and started writing like, what music that I like to write and what I like to listen to. And then just have been in the scene here in Austin and just growing the fan base, kind of grassroots and organically. Uh, and and have gotten to a point where, yeah, man, I play all over the place, all over the United States. I've been to Europe, played London a couple times, and have done that with my music. And yeah, just feel extremely blessed to have that career and actually make it work.
Hmm.
Um, However, it didn't come without, obviously, it's dark times and hitting rock bottoms and everything like that. And like I mentioned 5 years ago, I kind of got to a point because I was on The Voice as well and did all of that
Hmm.
stuff, and then career was taken off. And about 5 years ago, I got smacked with the reality of just um, it's all meaningless and everything's hopeless, and I wasn't walking with God then. So
Hmm.
I just got smacked with this mountain of hopelessness and depression just out of nowhere. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it was all leading up to that, and then I had to face some trauma and things that I pushed into my subconscious for years, and sexual abuse and church hurt and all of this stuff, and it all just came pouring out, and I had to you know had to try to figure it out myself, and I couldn't.
Hmm.
And that's when I got to a point where I was um, you know, thinking about taking my own life, and God met me. It was kind of a Saul to Paul moment on this little trail around the a lake at near our house, and I asked him, if you are who you say you are, like, help me. And he did, and he met me on that road and completely changed the trajectory of my life. And after that, I stepped back into music, doors shut that needed to be shut, others opened wide open, and I walked through them, and I had a new perspective of why I was given this gift, and I had my identity was in music, and that's who I was. Joe James was the artist, musician, songwriter, and that's who I was. But I had, the reality hit me of that's not who I am. That's a part of who I am, and I had to come to grips with, well, who am I? And I know who I am now, and I'm a child of God first. Everything else is after that. And so, like for a long time, I placed my identity in being a artist,
Hmm.
and that harmed me because that can be taken away so quickly. My voice could go out, my hand could be broken,
Hmm.
and so like, who am I when that goes away? And so I had to sit with that for a long time too, but luckily none of that has happened. Thank you, Jesus.
Hmm.
But I understand now that this is a vehicle for the purpose and calling that he has on our life. Because I believe people are gifted with certain things, but the main thing for us as children of God is to know him and to make him known. Whether that is through your music, whether that is through podcast or your work or your family. So I had to realize, like, I'm going to steward this gift that he's given me in this vehicle to do just that very well, and know that maybe one day that could be taken away, and
Hmm.
there will be another vehicle that I use to get that message out into the world.
Yeah, dude, that's so true, and it reframes like it does a couple things. Um, my my grandfather before he passed had told me one of like the big lessons he had told me. The only thing he knew to do was work hard. Like that's he goes. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not whatever, but I know how to work, and I know how to work. And
Yeah,
he was a welder at the refinery in Cheyenne, Wyoming. You were talking about a small town. We were talking about small town before we hit record and stuff like that.
yeah.
Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Wheatland, Wyoming, were where I grew up. And in Cheyenne,
Wow.
Wyoming, he worked at the refinery. Was a welder foreman, there, and and one of the lessons before he really got sick that he told me, he goes, "You want to know why you work hard?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because you can." He goes, "That choice is going to be taken away from you. And
Mm.
it's either going to be by virtue of you just pass away naturally, or something will happen that will take it away. Either age, an accident, it's going to be taken away. And so while
Yeah.
it's a choice, choose to do it." you
Right,
know?
exactly. Yeah. And knowing, and there's that scripture too that, commit your works unto the Lord, do everything unto the Lord. So if he's given you a gift and a talent and a skill, you better work hard at
Mhm.
it. And you better do the best, and you better do it with excellence, and that's what I try to do within the music and the gift that he has given me, until I can't do it,
Yeah.
and then you find another means to glorify his name, um but yeah, man, that's just kind of my musical in my life journey, and compressed into a small little story. But like, that's it, man. It's I think it all comes to identity, and like, who you really are outside of the things that you do,
Yeah.
like all of the things that you do, like, people ask you, like, what do you do, or who are you, or and you start telling them all of these things, and a lot of times my default is like, oh, I'm Joe James. I'm a writing, recording, and performing artist,
Hmm.
which is true, but I mean, it's not necessary. It's not who I actually am. And I think if I were to rephrase it, and I'm kind of working on answering that question differently too,
Hmm.
is I'm a child of God. I'm a husband, a father, and a son, and a brother. And I also play, music for a
Hmm.
living,
Hmm.
you know. But I think sometimes we get, and I think it could be a dangerous place to put your work as your identity.
Hmm.
Because when your work goes away, like your grandpa was saying, like you do it, you work hard when you're doing it, like you should, but it will get taken away and it
Yeah.
will go away one day. And so, like, who are you when it goes away? And that's like the big lesson I try to really remember and also encourage people is like who are you when if that goes away?
Yeah.
Like then who are you? You know, and that's the reality I had to face, which I'm glad I did, which and it was a hard one, you know.
Dude, it really is. And I relate to that so much. Like a few years ago, and this is probably, gosh, has it been 4 years? All right, I think it has been almost 4 years ago. Um, I was interviewing, and this is before like having to come to Austin, but all of like when we're talking about peaks and valleys, like this was a roller coaster for me for sure. Where
Yeah,
wanted to be a manager at work because Kendra and I, or our goal is to have her be able to stay home and homeschool our kiddos, right? To be able to
yeah,
do that. And I was getting ready for an interview to be a team leader at work. And I'm starting, it's like 30 minutes before. I had practiced my stories. I'm like, yeah, they could ask me about all the times I did blah, 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 blah. You know, I could tell them. But then all of a sudden, about 30 minutes before the interview, I just start, dude, my confidence, like, who the heck am I? They're not going to think I'm good. Oh my God. All this kind of stuff. And the only thing that I can do was an exercise to help me figure out exactly what you're talking about. And so what
mhm,
I did was like, I opened up a Keynote on my computer and I put like 4 circles on there. There was one at the bottom and 3 up top. And the 3 up top, I was like, all right, what are the 3 words that I know are most true about me, of how God has created me, that like if somebody were to tell me any different, they would be like, I like your blue hair. And I like obviously don't have blue hair. Like I would look at them cross if they were to ever tell me that I was not these things. And
yeah,
dude, like in it, this exercise helped so much for me. Like, so essentially in the circles, I put number 1, I'm an encourager. Number
mhm,
2, I'm a culture builder. And number 3, I'm a strategic thinker. Everything
mhm,
else is context.
mm,
So if we're talking about being a husband, I am those 3 things as a husband. If we're talking about a
that's good.
father, I'm
Yeah,
always going to be those 3 things. Work, I'm always going to be those 3 things. If I'm worship
yeah,
leading, I'm those 3 things, right? Like, and everything else is context. And so I probably feel more comfortable now with like certain talents and things being taken away because then I'm just those 3 things in a different context, you know.
perfect. Yeah, exactly.
And dude, like it is super tough. Like I say more comfortable. I'm not completely like, if I couldn't do a podcast, or if I one of my talents was taken away, you know, if my ability to speak was taken away, it would shake me. But I also know that I would figure it out, because the figuring it out wouldn't be who am I? The figuring out would be, well, how do I encourage somebody without my voice now? How do I
That
how do I
yeah,
do those things that I know I am without that? But it's a scary proposition, man. It's a scary proposition when you think
it
about it.
is. It makes me think of do you remember the band Audio Adrenaline? Do you remember
Yeah.
them?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You were you a church kid?
Yo, well, yes, yes, but tangentially. So I wasn't like a youth group kid, but I knew,
Okay.
like I was the kid who was at like the men's breakfast with my dad with all the
Oh, cool.
gray, gray beards and all that kind of stuff when
Yeah.
I was like 13, you know.
Yeah, so it reminds me of Audio Adrenaline, the singer, Mark, his last name escapes me, but he lost his voice and he was like the leader of the band. He wrote all the songs. That voice was so crucial to their sound. You know, they had that like big house song and like they had like all of
Yep.
these tunes that get down or underdog and like
Yeah.
they had these songs and you're like that's the voice of well then his voice went out like he couldn't sing anymore. He strained his vocal cords so much that he never got them back.
Yeah.
um and he did just what we're talking about, and he, instead of you know secluding into his room and isolating himself and just you know grieving his the loss of what he identified as the singer of Audio Adrenaline, he started Hands and Feet ministry, and
Mm.
he fully immersed himself into that. So he was in this vehicle, which was Audio Adrenaline, and then obviously couldn't do that anymore. So he went to this one,
Yeah.
and he was still doing exactly what God had called him to do, and that was to to spread the message of the gospel to people. And he was doing it through song, and then now he's doing it through helping, others that are less fortunate than us,
Yeah.
and so it is true. Like you take the like you're saying, like those three things, like what you could apply them into another area or avenue of life. Like it doesn't have to be this one specific thing. If that specific thing goes away, you still have those those character traits that God has given you that can't go away,
Yeah.
and you bring them into another place,
Yeah.
and you're still able to be a light shining, and you're still able to glorify the Lord in the way He intended you to, you know.
Dude, doesn't that like put the verse the gifts of God are irrevocable? Like it totally reframes it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
because you would think the gift is the voice, right? You would think that that would be the
you would think
gift.
that, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. I think that makes more sense now,
Yeah,
with
yeah, and it's
that.
true. It's so true. Yeah, that verse is perfect. It's like, yeah, you would think, oh man, like they're a great singer, and like if their voice goes away, then that verse is not true. But it is true because you just apply that voice was a vehicle for something. It wasn't necessarily the singing voice. It was what you were doing and what you were invoking and the message you were telling with it, and the emotions you were pulling out of people with that those vocal expressions. It wasn't necessarily the voice.
Yeah.
It was your story or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's perfect, man. I'm gonna use that verse.
dude
That's
dude, it's crazy. And one part of our story that we share very much in common, and we talk about
mhm,
identity and all of that, is being a father.
mm,
And doing that, bro. Like both of our roads were very not what we thought to it
right. Yeah. Yeah.
to it happening. I mean, was being a father something that you just knew was going to happen? Like, and you're just how did you approach it? Because we both went through disappointments. We both went through so much of
Yeah.
all of that. And
Yeah, man.
I mean, go through as much as you would want to of that. But I mean, it's I when you telling the music story, I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, how many versions of this story have you
I know, man. Uh,
like we talk about different contexts. And again, man,
I know. Yeah. It feels like I've lived way too many of those stories. But so we, my wife and I, my wife Chelsea, we've been together for 21 years, married for 14. When we were younger, we would fantasize about having kids and starting a family. When we walked away from the church and I fully immersed myself into my career, because again, that was my identity,
yeah,
um, I and she did the same. She's a cosmetologist, and she started working for a barbershop, and she just was really focused. We were very career driven people, which is not bad. Um, but we came to this, I don't know when, but we came to a conclusion that we didn't want kids. We were just going to focus on our career, work really hard, enjoy our vacations on our own, and get a good night's rest and all of those things. And so we decided we didn't want them. We didn't want kids at one point in our life. Um, but then 5 years ago, when I came back to the Lord, or when I truly submitted myself to the Lord, and He began His good work in me and transforming me into the man I am today, and still working some things out. Um, we both had this desire. He placed this desire in our heart to be parents, and it was heavy. It was a real heavy one. We're like, we want to be we want kids, and we never, for years we didn't think about that. We are just focused on, ourselves really. And all of a sudden it just came out of nowhere. And so we began the journey,
Mm-hmm.
that, that, extremely heartbreaking journey. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, we, every month felt like a funeral, and, we dealt with it for years. And for 4.5 years or so, we were trying and trying and trying and getting tests and surgeries and all of these things. And, um, nothing was working. And last year, I started to question and get angry at God and have heated conversations of like, why would you play this sick joke
Mm-hmm.
of giving us,
Mm-hmm.
um, this desire and then not fulfilling it? What, like, why are you doing that? Um, um, and so I had a show in Florida, April of last year, and I was gonna take a red eye, fly in, fly back out the next day, um, and I decided, you know what, maybe you should come with me. I told my wife this. Maybe you should come with me, and we'll just sit on the beach and just pray and talk to God and kind of take a deep breath. This has just been a hard few years, and so we sat there in Naples, Florida, um, crying, talking to God, reading the Word, writing what we'd hoped to be our kids' names in the sand. And it was healing, but it was still hard. Like, we still had a lot of questions that weren't answered and prayers that weren't answered. Um, and so we get back home to Texas, and a few weeks later, I have this vivid dream of me holding a baby in my arms in the hospital. And I woke up and I had this like heavy feeling and strong feeling that it was a baby we adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told my wife that morning, we were sitting down to do our devotional, and I said, I had this dream, and I like it's really like weighing heavy on me, I have to tell you. And I told her, and she started crying. She said she had the exact same dream that night.
Wow.
And so from that moment, and I'll backtrack just slightly because we go to the same church. We go to
Mm-hmm.
Church of Whitestone. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go.
Let's go.
But we started attending Whitestone in March of last year, and we would go up every Sunday, miracle opportunities, and we would go up, we would talk, or we have, talk about what we're going through, and they'd pray for us, um, and then yeah, we go to Naples, Florida. I had that dream, and that was a huge answer. I felt like for us that the reason God wanted us, or how we were going to become parents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was through adoption, and that was the reason he wasn't, you know, allowing us to get pregnant at the time. But I had that moment of clarity that that's what he was saying. I want you to
Mm-hmm.
do this first, and then, because I
Mm-hmm.
still believe that he will give us, a child. Well, who knows in what way, because
Yeah.
that's how he works.
Yeah.
But I know there's going to be more children in our house. Maybe it'll be biological, maybe it'll be more adoption. I don't know. But we just had that dream, and we felt like that's what he was saying. Actually, we didn't feel anything. We knew exactly that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we started calling up adoption agencies, got one. 2 months later, we get matched with a birth mother who just so happened to be from Naples, Florida, which was wild. And so, we got matched very quickly, and we were told at the very beginning that it could take up to a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was 2 months, and we were matched. And we started doing, putting two and two together that if we were in Naples, Florida in April, and this baby is due to be born in January, then she would have been conceived while we were praying and asking God for
Wow.
clarity in Naples, Florida. So that
That's
it's kind
crazy.
of like it's divine poetry that we could not have written.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that's all him, and like he gets the glory in that whole thing because like I wouldn't have seen it being the way being it going this way, you know.
Yeah.
I would have thought we would have tried the first time and boom, we're pregnant and like, you know, and we have our biological child and like we live happily ever after, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but God had other plans and his ways are far above our ways and I didn't expect it to go this way, but on the other side of it, I couldn't imagine it being any other way,
Yeah.
you know, because it's been such a blessing and it's completely um, pushed us to grow and step into this and also to kind of have to be closer to the heart of the father, the ultimate adoptive father
Mm-hmm.
too, which
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, we're all adopted into in his family, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so like it just really changed our perspective on life and on how he works and his ways and you know and asking you know I talked to Pastor Torn about this recently, but like when we pray for something, we pray with the faith that God can do it, but also follow that with, but not my will, but yours,
Yeah.
because His will is far better than ours, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, again, like I thought it was going to go this way, and when it, granted, we still became parents, but it was in God's timing and in God's way, and it has been way more beautiful than we could have literally ever expected, man. Like
Yeah.
we're just parenthood is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. It gets frustrating at times and it's tiring, but man, like I I didn't know I could be this selfless, you know?
Yeah.
When you have that feeling like it's just like, you know, I would do anything for this little child
Yeah.
that I've only known for 5 months, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um, it's just crazy, man. Like how your perspective, and you know this as a father, like I'm sure the first time you held your baby, it's like a switch goes on. You're like, oh, I'm like I am the provider, I'm the protector, I'm gonna be here for this child, I'm gonna train this child in the ways of the
Yeah.
Lord. I know I'm gonna mess up here and there, but I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be here for this baby, you
Yep.
know. I'm gonna and like you just like it completely changes your perspective on life, man. It's the craziest, most beautiful thing I've ever experienced, really.
Yeah. No, and it's so true because it unlocks things that like only that can unlock. You know,
Yeah.
you can go and you could volunteer for nonprofits, you could donate, you could be like selfless in all these other ways, but there is a level of unlock that
Mm.
happens and a reframing of that word selfless when that does happen. You know,
Wow.
even to the point where like the whatever level of selfless you are, you still feel selfish. Like it's on that level, you know,
Bro, oh man, dude,
like
that's so good. I heard a friend of mine told me that, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh man, being a parent is hard."
yeah,
And he's like, "It's only hard when you're selfish.
yeah,
It's easy when you're selfless." And I I didn't understand that, you know, until you have a child. And like you have times where you're getting frustrated because like today, even with me, like my wife Chelsea we have a studio at our house, a hair salon. She does hair at
hmm
our and and so she was like, "You're watching the baby today." You know, and I'm like, okay, good. I don't have anything going on except for an interview with my boy Isaac. Um, so I was watching her, and you know, I have emails coming in, and I have things and text messages like, "Can you send this?" And you know, are you available this day? And I'm trying to answer, and my baby's crying, and she's hungry, and she needs her diaper changed, and you know, she wants to be pushed on the swing, and she wants
hmm
me to play with her. I start getting frustrated because I'm being selfish because I want to answer all of these things for me
hmm
when if I was selfless and was like, I'm gonna put this phone aside, I'll get to them when I get to them.
hmm
I'm gonna be selfless and I'm gonna lay on the floor and I'm gonna play.
hmm
and I'm going to do all of these things for my child. And I noticed that I start to realize the times I am being selfish or selfless, and the times I'm being selfish is like when she needs me for something, and I'm worried about answering a work email, or I'm worried about doing this, or I gotta,
Mm-hmm.
and it really puts that in perspective. Yes, it becomes hard when this little life needs you, but you have these things going on and you're prioritizing these things more than this little life,
Mm-hmm.
then it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're like, oh man, I need to be doing these things. Stop crying,
Yeah.
And, but then when you're like, no, those things could wait, and I'll tend to her to my baby, and I'm gonna be selfless. I'm gonna be intentional. I'm gonna be purposeful, and not think about any of those things that I have to do, and I'll just be in this moment with her,
Mm-hmm.
until I'm relieved of that, and then I could go do what I have to do. But yeah, it's hard if you're selfish. It's easy if you're being selfless, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which was a huge kind of um, perspective that I never really thought about, you know, because you can say it is difficult because you lose sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough time to do this, but then all of that goes back to you being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and so I had to come to that realization. And also, man, I want to spend as like much time as I possibly could because it's going by so fast. This as a dad, like I'm like, you literally were just a blob that does nothing,
Yep.
and now you're reaching for everything and almost crawling, and you have two little teeth on, you know, in your mouth, and you're saying "mama" now, and like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
where is time going?
It's wild. My son saw something on a shelf at Target that like this was like 2 weeks ago, and I mean he. If you look at the first day, I showed you the first day of kindergarten and the last day of kindergarten picture. I think I had showed you
Yeah, yeah,
like two
yeah,
different kids, right? So we're in Target a couple weeks ago, and he sees something that he wants off the shelf, and he goes, "Ooh, W's in the chat," and I'm like, "Whoa, what did you just say? Like, what are you? Like just the little
yeah.
things that they pick up." But then also like the humility of you are a person at the same time, and like being a parent will absolutely humble you. Like coming to Austin, coming out here. um I came out here first because we were pregnant with Evelyn, and I was out here for about 8 months because I mean it was the timing was essentially we're pregnant, and then I'm like, you're gonna do great. I'm gonna go for eight. I have to go for like 8 months. You're gonna move in with your parents, and it was like just like a whole weird thing, right?
Yeah.
There. So I leave, and I'm like I got the new job. I'm providing exactly the way that I should, flying back to Phoenix to be with them. Like I think the longest we didn't see each other was like maybe 3 weeks. Like during the whole thing, like so we were flying back and forth. Either Kendra was here and I was there, and like we went back and forth. So we had a good cadence, right? And we
Yeah.
felt really good about it. Um, and so I'm thinking we're doing everything right, but it really hit me when my son saw it as like me leaving them.
Oh, yeah.
and
Hmm.
and and like it did there's nothing that we could have known that like they were going to take it that way, internalize different things. There's not nothing that we could have known, but it took, I'm not gonna lie, they've been out here, it'll be 2 years in September, and it took about a year and the 3 months, about a year and a quarter, for him to be able to trust that I wasn't leaving.
Wow.
And man, like there's things like that where, then you start getting multiple kids, and everything that you did would be exactly what one kid needed. And it's those exact things are the one things that cause harm to the other. And it's like, it's such a humbling thing as a parent to be like, I just have to be so dependent on the faithfulness of God that like I can't control. I am not going to be everything to them.
Right.
And that pressure to be this perfect thing and be exact, or for me to have known,
Sure.
that, because I would never knowingly have my son question that I would ever like I would never knowingly
Yeah,
put
of
him through
course.
that,
Yeah.
And so that
Because you think you're doing it for your family, right? Like you're doing it for them.
right?
You would never think that he would, but then of course, like children, they don't understand that. All they understand is like, I want my dad's presence
Hmm.
in, in the room with me. Like
Yeah.
that's all they see, which is wild to me, that's how that's what they will remember.
Yeah.
It's how intentional and purposeful you are with your time with them, you
Dude,
know.
it's wild when you talked about like unearthing traumas like that you had to heal from and stuff like that. That experience like taught me so much, that like when my parents were divorced, and I think I may have talked about this on another episode, but like when my parents were divorced, that was very much during a time where parents were very cognizant. It's not you kids, mommy and daddy love you very much, this is a thing between them. And like in the 90s,
Yeah.
that was something you like told, drilled at home, right? And I understood that,
Mm,
and so I knew they have problems. It's not because of us. I'm okay with that. But the way that I internalized it was, I understand I'm not the problem, but I do realize that mom and dad do have big problems, and it's my
mm,
job not to add to that. And so when I would
mm.
need help, throughout my life, I struggled
Wow.
with asking for help. I would assume, I felt like inviting people to things, or like calling somebody because I wanted to like talk to them or see them, was imposing on them.
Mm.
And so I'm like, I am a friend who is not needy. If I text you and I'm like, hey, blah, 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 right, and you don't respond, I am completely okay with that, because I'm like, I'm the best friend to have when it comes to that. You do not have to worry about pacifying me. If I texted you and told you you're amazing and you don't respond, that's fine. My text was for you to just remind you that you're amazing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the best friend in that way. But in ways that it hurts me is like when I should ask for help, I don't, because I feel like I'm
Mm,
imposing. And it's hurt me
mm.
professionally. And with my son, I didn't FaceTime at night because they're probably having fun. I don't want to impose on them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like they're probably out doing something. I don't want to bug them just because I miss them. And like
Wow.
I don't want to like anything like that. And so, dude, like I'm still working through parts of that. Like I feel like I figured it out in some ways, but even professionally, like I'm very lucky to be in an environment where if I'm struggling with an aspect, I can go to my bosses and they're like, "All right, here's what I would do. Here's how I perceive, like here's your strength." Like it's never going to be like, "Well, I thought you could handle it." Oh, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
given you like I'm not in an environment like that, thankfully.
Yeah.
But dude, like it's so fascinating how
Isn't
this
it? I
the
mean, how that follows you into your adulthood. Like you don't realize, like, oh, that's because of past trauma,
right.
that that's, yeah, it blows. I mean, I still have those things as well where, I find myself going, oh, that's why I'm reacting this way, or that's why I'm coiling back in this way, or that's why you know, I'm perceiving this situation in this way. It's because of certain past traumas. Man, that's crazy, man. That makes me, like I went to therapy for like a whole every week for like a whole entire year,
Mhm.
and getting the tools to work a lot of those things out. But I didn't realize like some of those things were completely haunting my adulthood.
Right,
You
dude.
know,
And what's crazy is
and
it's not like, oh, my parents always did X, Y, and Z, and I'm hurt because of that. Like, it's
yeah,
not even, and nobody did anything bad per se. It's just like a thing that took root, and a framing and a filter for the way that you just look at life. And those are the
y-
sneaky ones.
yeah. Do you ever find this too? A buddy of mine was talking to me, like when we adopted Eleanor, we were in Florida, and I sent him pictures of the bit of Eleanor. I'm like, she's born and she's in the world, and celebrating, and he's like, That's awesome, man. He's like, I'll give you some advice. Like, be mindful of some of the characteristics that come out from your parents that
Yeah,
you don't really like you don't you be aware of that, like notice them, and
dude.
then and do your best and not to repeat, like I said, the good things, of course,
Yeah.
but like you start to see certain actions that maybe your dad or mom would do that you know as an adult now that weren't the healthiest, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and you start to see them come out in your parenting, and you're like, oh, whoa, you know, he
Dude.
told me this, and I was like, oh yeah, man, yeah, of course, I'm gonna lock that in. You told me that, now I'm not gonna do it. You
Yep.
know, I'm
Yep.
not, and of course I did. You know,
Dude.
and I do, and I'll find myself there, and I'm like, oh, but the good thing is being aware of it. But man, it's like it's there, and it starts to come out from years and years of that. You know,
Dude. And
and
and to know that, yeah, it will come out. Like, it's
mhm.
so easy to be like, hey, learn the neck of the guitar so you don't have to play with the capo. You're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I
yeah,
get that. I get that. But when you just play with the capo for so long, it's going to take work to learn the position where the scales are, right? Like, it
right, yeah,
will take
exactly.
a little bit to do that. And people like you and Kendra are go, oh, okay, hold on, wait, yep. Okay, that means the scales here. Okay, yeah, yeah, I can play the banjo for this thing. And is a little part of me resentful that both of you can do that? Sure, yeah, yeah. But you know what? That's something that I have to deal with.
Hey, and I still play with the capo. I still play with the capo. I'll say I get a little lazy and I'm just like putting it on there. And I'm like, I just want to sing, man. I just want to sing.
Dude, it's so good, but like, what a metaphor though, like playing with a capo. Like, what does parenting with a capo look like, and learning where you're playing with a capo and going to muscle memory because you just know it, you know? Like
Yeah,
what does
yeah,
what like all that, and you're like, wow, I don't know where the scales are here, and reaching out to somebody who you look up to who does it really well and go,
yeah,
you need to, like, teach me, teach me how to do this chord so I don't have to play bar
yeah,
chords all the time. Like, how do
yeah,
I
yeah,
do that? Because I can play it, but it's pretty clunky. Um, I mean, dude, like, that's something, and it's just making me think of things that I have to do now.
yeah, yeah.
Over the next.
Same.
But yeah, man, it's what a metaphor that is. I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, same. Me too, dude.
Well, dude, for the rest of the year, I mean, you have stuff really. I said author. I said you have a project coming out. Like, we've been talking about stories and different things that you've been writing. Like, tell us a little bit about that kind of stuff before we go.
Yeah, man. So I got a new album coming out called Everything and Nothing. I just released um, the title track, released a single um, from that album. But and I have one coming out in July 17th with my friends Gritty Sunset. It's a cool little summer song called A Sweet Something. Um, but man, this album is the most authentic work that I've ever done because I wrote it from a place of not trying to please anyone or achieve anything, but just writing real stories, real music for real people from a real person, and just things that I've been through and what I felt, the good, the bad, and the in between, you know. And I approached writing this album from that, you know, perspective and that posture, and was just left with some of the most beautiful soulful, heart-wrenching music that I've ever written. You know, it's the album I'm most proud of. It's going to be hard to top, you know, but I think I'll top it. I just need to live a little more life, you know.
See.
Um, but yeah, so it comes out September 18th. We're doing a big release show at a place called the O4 Center, and it's a cool venue, church converted into a venue, so an old like you know, A-frame
Yeah,
steeple church
dude.
converted into a venue. I think it hold about 400
Okay.
people. It's a great spot, man. So we'll be there on September 18th, releasing the album. Our friends Jennifer Foster and the Audacity, they're going to be opening up the night and have some special guests. It's going to be beautiful night, man. I'm just excited to get this type of music into the hands and the ears of in the hearts of people who need to hear it, you know. And
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer that I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. And this music will find the people that it's meant for.
Yeah.
And so I just can't wait to release it and for those people to listen to these songs and these songs become their songs and that these songs would minister to their hearts and would in whatever they're going through or to just make them dance or whatever,
Right.
you know, like either one, like it has all of it within this album. But yeah, so we're doing that, and then I'm releasing a book, a memoir about my life in November, and it was inspired by a song on the album called "I Shouldn't Be Here," and I kind of compressed my testimony into 3.5 minutes, and I was sitting there in the studio listening to it, and I'm like, man, I just feel like I have so much more to say, you
Yeah.
know. And my friend who was engineering the session, his name's Matt Malley, he turned around and half jokingly was like, "Well, why don't you write a book then?" You know, and I was like, maybe I will. And so I went home and I started jotting some memories down and reached out to a friend of mine in Dallas who's an author, and she helped me find an editor and then a formatter, and we just kind of like went for it, man. And the book's done, and it'll be released in November, and it's called "I Shouldn't Be Here."
Wow.
Um, and I'll say the song says I shouldn't be here, but I am,
Mhm.
and there's a reason why I am, and so that's kind of like the book kind of ties that, or kind of comes back to that, is I shouldn't, given everything I just explained to you in the book, statistically, I should not be here,
Yeah.
but I am by
Yep.
the grace of God because He has a plan and a purpose for my life, just like He has with whoever's going to read the book that needs to hear that, you know.
Dude. How and this is the last last question on every episode, but for people who would hear your story and go, "Listen, like that's awesome for you.
Mhm.
But I don't sing, I don't play an instrument. I'm definitely in the valley, I'm definitely in that place and needs a little bit of encouragement." What would you tell them to encourage them that, hey, if you could do it, they can?
Man, yes, I have all those gifts, but man, I am just a person like anybody else. You know, I may be able to be a little circus monkey and dance up on the stage and whatever, but I am just a guy and a person just like everyone else. And God has completely redeemed my life in so many ways. And if a person like me that has been through such trauma and sexual abuse and you know, uh, substance abuse and all of that, if I can do it and I can be on this other side, so can you. And I've watched God completely do such a work in my life. And I'm just so fortunate to be here again. Like I'm just a regular dude that God decided to give me a second chance and allow me to keep doing what He has called me to do. And I'm
Yeah.
just thankful for it.
Dude, I love that. And I love that perspective that yep, you're talented, yep, you're gifted, but if it was about that, if there was a there just in the talent, then you wouldn't have had to experience any so much of what you've
Right,
experienced if that was something redemptive. If there was something redemptive about being able to sing or
right,
knowing the scales on the guitar, but
exactly.
it's just there's something deeper.
There's
And
something deeper. Correct.
and I absolutely love it. Thank you for sharing part of your story. I mean, I feel like I can't believe an hour's gone by. I feel like
No,
we barely talked about anything.
it's in the
On
book.
it,
It's in
right?
the
Yeah,
book.
and there you go, there you go. Hey, but if you were inspired by this story, which I don't know how you couldn't be, Remember, like, subscribe, do all the things, and not just because need more subscribers, not because of that. It's because there are rules to this game called podcasting, and if you want more people to hear stories like this, you know what to do. But other than that, hey, go do something to make you proud of you this week, all right? All right.